thank you so much. I mean, Torsten and the crew. I mean, you guys are so wonderful running this awesome day, and I love the videos, of course. So, yeah. And hi everyone in this meeting. And I guess you all already talked about the code of conduct today to be nice and kind and all of that. So I guess that is how we do. And let's talk about human-led AI operated, how to become a frontier firm using ADKAR and the frontier maturity model. Oh, that was a mouthful, wasn't it? So let's see if we can make sense of all of this. And of course, I love the videos as Tanya had created. It was so nice. And I thought this works very well with my theme today. And this session is not about a tool demo, or if that is what you expect, then it's a wrong meeting. Basically, this session is about navigation, so the big oceans of technology and AI. So hopefully no hype in this meeting, but let's see if it makes sense in the long run. And what we will do is map how to our organizations move from experiment to through human agent teamwork. That is the kind of aurora we would like to reach at some point in time. So we're sailing from AI experiments to human agent teamwork. So let's sail. And first of all, let's talk about the AI gap. What we see that many companies, they pilot Copilot, still work doesn't change very much. And that knowledge stays trapped, the governance slows, and chaos accelerates. I guess some people have experienced maybe one or several of these when implementing Copilot in their organization. And what we hear sometimes that Copilot is not working. Well, if it's not working, it's not because of Copilot, it is because of an information flow issue oftentimes. There are things we need to do, and the gap doesn't go on capability. It is about work design and behavior. And how do we cover these gaps then? How do we build these bridges? And so let's embark on a journey to become what they call frontier firm. And frontier firm is a term that Microsoft have used, and there are also frontier as a technology or a function, so that can be a bit confusing. But what we talk about this today is about the frontier firm and what that actually is. And what about frontier firms? They redesign work and around outcomes. And then the consideration is human agent teaming built into everyday workflows. So it's all merged into one, basically. So you have the frontier firm concept, not the feature or technology, but the concept. And then we look at the human-led AI operated. What do we mean by that? First of all, so I put this, because it was such a beautiful video with the ship and the ocean and all of that. So I love that idea, and I live close to the ocean. I live far on the west coast of Norway, so we have lots of ocean. It's a half island with ocean on three sides, so that's perfect for me. So I took the nautical view on not nautical but nautical view on the human-led and AI operated concept. And the point is that we don't want to drift along, we want to navigate with a purpose. And when we say human-led, we mean that people, they are at the helm, they are steering the ship. They're setting the course, setting strategies, they read the conditions, look, they decide which kind of AI should be used, should be not used. They make the final decisions. Even if you use AI or Copilot or whatever you might use, the person, the human, is in the driving seat no matter what. You can never say that because Copilot says so. That doesn't work. And AI operated means that it is powered by the crew and the instrument. And the crew can be both people and it can be the co-pilot. And the point is to run automations of work process that takes time and are very repetitive and that you really don't have to do yourself. It can help you to gather information, to sort information, to help you clean up mess, basically, and also to navigate. You can use them to assist you. You can automate tasks. You can, of course, increase speed in certain processes. And that doesn't mean necessarily that when you use Copilot, that means you can get rid of so and so many people in your organization. It means that the people in your organization get more time to be people. Because if you look at your work situation today and 10 years ago, do you have less work to do today? I think not. I think we have more work to do, each of us. And sometimes it's hard to find new people to work for us because people are busy everywhere. so then instead, let AI and Copilot, for example, help you breathe easier during the day. That's the whole point about it, as far as I can see it. And then drive on outcome. You sail towards a destination. You have a goal, or at least make some goals. Where do you want to go? You don't want to drift here and there. Well, the big ocean is big, and of course it can be nice to kind of just drift along, but over time that can become boring and it doesn't earn you good money, at least. So create some goals and navigate by the landmarks. Set some waypoints. Where do you want to go? Where should you stop along the way? And not follow necessarily your deck plans. And what I mean by that, deck plans can be anything that different teams want to do different things, but focus on the goals, because the deck plans might change depending on what happens along the journey on towards the goal. And design the work, that the work is designed. Basically, you have charted the route, you have an intention with your route, it's clear, it's planned, information flows where it's supposed to flow, the roles are defined, the signals are clear. So you see, this is the direction we're going to go. And this requires a bit from management to actually make sure that they have a clear direction where we want to go. So let's move forward. There you go. And the thing is, Frontier Firm, what is different with them is they don't ask if AI is used. They ask whether the work itself is well designed. And based on the Frontier Firm concept that Microsoft has shared previously, we worked out what we called Frontier Firm maturity model. Maybe some of you are familiar with the Microsoft 365 maturity model, which is really great for implementation of Microsoft 365. And then we had a talk with Copilot, of course, to see, okay, with this Frontier Firm concept and inspired by the Microsoft 365 maturity model, how can we create a maturity model for Frontier Firm? Because the Frontier Firm is kind of the ideal that we want to reach towards. However, we are all on different places, and then maybe not even necessarily everybody has to become a Frontier Firm like 100%. However, there are different steps we can take. First of all, figure out where we are, because if you want to reach a goal, you need to understand where you're starting from. So that can be a good place to figure out where are we if we look at this maturity model. Where is our company today, and where do we really want to go? So these steps are the first one is the emerging company or the firm. It's organic. You have fragmented use of AI. In every company, you always have these persons who are always early on to use new technology and are interested. However, it's not organized as much, but some people are using it and even excelling in it. And then we have level 200, which we called foundation. This is where you start working on the governance. You have information architecture related to aligned with the Copilot and AI. You have security and compliance evaluations. You put a governance plan. That's where you are when you are on level 200. And then we move over to step 300, which is the AI adopter. You have the governance in place, you have information architecture, you have it all in place. And then you start using teams using Copilot together, because in many organizations, individuals are using Copilot. However, as teams or groups of people working together, may not be that much on level 100, 200, but on level 300, that's where the teams are starting to use Copilot, and the early assistant first habits are coming into place, where let's do the assistant first, then we work together on it. And then you have, but still it can be a bit inconsistent use. Maybe not all teams are using it. And then you move over into the organization that is AI mature. This is where you have installed agent workflows, not like people have created their individual agents necessarily, because they can do that in both 200 and 300. However, on level 400, this is where core work process have their own agents, and you have set up a measurable return of investment, for example. And then we're moving to level 500, and this is the very interesting change of how work is designed in an organization, because in the level 500 Frontier Firm, the organization have moved from org chart to work chart. And I'm going to come back to that a little later, what that actually means, and then focusing on the human and agent teaming. And it's very interesting. I read up a few resources on this, and it's really interesting how that model is going to fly eventually. So let's explore each level a little bit more into details here. And then, like I said, in level 100, it explored isolate experience, maybe not necessarily a shared direction. And the characteristic of that is organic, people are enthusiastic, but it's still fragmented. And what is the requirement to move forward to level 200? That is number one, to understand the gap and to have an intent to move beyond the pilots. And symptoms that we can observe is it is used by a few, however, not to maybe that visible for the rest of the organization. Cool things are happening, but they're still not connected. Level 200, like I said, the organization prepares the ship before sailing further, right? So the characteristics here are they focus on the platform readiness, governance, security, information architecture. And the requirement here to move forward to level 300 is the knowledge, like we know from ADKAR, the knowledge concept. And we need to have a clarity on where work are happening these days, where information lives, and the rules of the sea. And then what we can see are it is available, but it's not used cautiously, or maybe it's even used but inconsistently in the organization. So that is number two. We bought the ship, we wrote the rules. So know what? Maybe we haven't even quite decided which harbor we want to travel from. So that is kind of important, if you're going to go on a journey. Level 300. Teams use Copilot, and ways of work are still uneven. Like we said earlier, assistant first habits, they appear, but they're mostly driven by champions and motivated teams. Maybe it's one of the business units in organization are ahead, but the rest that maybe not that much. And here we move into the requirement to move forward, and we move into the ability level in the ADKAR change management model, as you maybe know from before. And this is where we have repeatable habits at the team levels, and not just a few skilled people. And what we can see a difference here is between the teams. Some, like I said, maybe the business units are motivated. They gain value because they have tried, they have tested certain processes. Others, they are still waiting a little bit. It works great for some teams, not for others. And then we moved into the level 400 characteristics. The workflows support core processes and business outcomes. And the requirements here to move forward, back to the reinforcement, as we know from ADKAR. Through leadership, we have set up some operating models and cultural signals that we want to follow. We have clear strategies on what we need to follow and work on moving forward to level 500. And here we are discussing return of investment in terms of time saved, quality improved, or flow unlocked. And this is now how we do things around here. And maybe for many organizations, it's good enough to be, and this is the place you maybe want to be, because the next level is requiring a lot more than just training and change management. It's basically rearranging the whole organization, how you are organized. So that is completely different compared to many other technology implementation, because here you shift from org chart to work chart. That means what is important is not how the hierarchy is working, it's more you organize your people based on what kind of work needs to be done to reach certain goals. So the outcome becomes important, and this can lead to the organization become much more flat, and more kind of like a project type of organization compared to we are always doing things like this. And that's not going to happen that much in this kind of organization. It's much more fluid. And of course, even level 500 needs to move forward to keep staying on level 500 and also move forward. And it's, of course, continuous learning, your governance that enables speed, because what we see is that the world these days are kind of upside down on many levels. There's expensive, things are getting more expensive. We need to redirect how we run our business. And there's lots of uncertainty these days, and this way we need to be a bit more of an agile organization and move along and change maybe even directions if we see the needs arises. And to be able to do that, to be moving everyone in your organization as one agile body, that takes quite a bit. But that is basically what level 500 frontier firms are. It's very interesting. So, and yes, so and a culture that reinforces new behavior. And what you talk about is outcomes and signals, not the tools or the features anymore. So we don't ask if AI is used, we ask if the work is well designed. And here I would like you to consider, if you can scan this one. I really hope I have remembered to put it on. Everyone can reply on this one. So if you can pick up your phone and scan this and consider what jump is hardest for you to jump if you are on any of these levels in your organizations, or even use the chat field if you rather want to do that. Which of these levels do you think your organization is, and what could be the hardest jump for you? So let's see, any on the chat field here? No, there was no chat yet, but let me know if you cannot. So let's try. Let's see if I can open up the form. Hold on a second. Let's see if I can open the form. So I was running from one meeting room to the next to reach this one, so I didn't get the chance to pick it up before. Here we go. But let's see if I can find it, and if I see any responses, and I can share that. There we are. Let's see if anyone is responding. And hold on, wrong. I want to present it. Okay. Oh, looky here, you are answering. Wait, there we are. Here we go. Yeah, the hardest. Thank you, everyone. This is awesome. So yeah, so 300 to 4. I can believe you because I think that it can be the hardest. Yeah, because it takes a lot more than just run an implementation of new technology, kind of. Yeah. Let's move. So yes, and the different levels, they fail for different reasons and require different kinds of change. Maybe that is saying the same as okay, it's going to be wet if it's raining, and then kind of course, but still there are different ways we can fix this, and we have some methods. And this maturity model I just walk you through, it can tell you where you are on the map. And then we can use the ADKAR, which is the ProSci change management model to help organize the activities that you can use to move through this, and also the elements. And elements are going to come back to, because they kind of are my own inventions, but I like to work with the elements of the nature, right? So both the ADKAR and the elements can tell you how to sail to the chosen horizon. So what we had a look at now was the Copilot and Frontier Firm success relies on moving from the different levels onto the desired levels. Desired levels can be any of these levels. It's just you decide where you want to go. But of course, along the road, or let's see, the journey at sea, there will be some shoals and some barriers to navigate in between. And then we can use the ADKAR model, for example. But the frontier firms, I will want to have a chat with you how actually work changes if you're looking at the level 500. There are some patterns, which is the assistant first, work chart, and the elements. And assistant first means we use, whatever we want to do, we use the assistant or Copilot first. They ask it to suggest, to create, to personalize. For example, if you are running meetings, I would like my Copilot to actually help me prepare those. Maybe even do it before if it's a regular meeting, it can have a regular work task to organize these when I'm busy doing my other work. But still human review and also own the result of whatever the Copilot or the AI is coming with. And you start with the bot, and then you keep working with it. And then work chart. Move away from hierarchy. Focus on the goals. Where are you going? And track the outcomes. And make work track those outcomes. And then people can move easily and prepare your organization to help people move easily, make it easier to move people around as well, because sometimes you have some people that are very popular to bring on the project, but nobody can work 200% over a long period of time. So be prepared, use HR, work together with HR, work together with management, plan your project and prioritize the project, because then you don't have to burn out your people because you're putting too much on their shoulders. Very important. But if you organize your work and focus on where are the directions you want to go, that is perfectly possible. But it requires quite a bit of changes in some organization. And then we have elements, and we're moving into the work is a mix of reusable steps. That's number one. And then you have search and signals. They are designed so that you clearly have clear signals and you know what to search for. And you focus on roles and not necessarily job family. And even roles can change as well. So everything is a bit fluid, but certain things, you have the processes, you have the data, you have the tools, and these are the elements that you combine to work in the Frontier Firm. And let's have a look at the first pattern, the assistant first work style. And that is not necessarily ask for summaries in meeting. We all know how to do that now. But you design work so the assistant can act. For example, using Copilot to prep for meeting, to capture decisions, to help you draft and follow up activities, even on automatic basic. And then we move from the other one, because in many organizations, we are very stuck basically to the org chart structure. And now we want to move over to the more of a work chart. It will give you a much flatter organization, and the roles will change a lot. But of course you will, and here is where you bring in these teams of agents and people together in teams. And they will also flow, of course. They will change according to the activities and the work that needs to be done. Yeah. And you have to have this clear signal. So you move away from having departments and these kind of or hierarchical structures, but you follow the work and you focus on the outcomes of that work. And then it's important then to what we call the rules of seamanship, like we're all sailing on this ship together with our business, regarding if you're building tractors or whatever we are doing in our organization, or building roads across the country, we have certain goals that we want to reach. And let us follow the goals and not necessarily the map, because what we do know on the big seas, there can be storms, there can be shoals to navigate between. We might need to even change the map along the way. But also keep the information flowing safely. That means, for example, working smart in teams, make sure everybody have all the information they need. Because remember, also undersharing is a big risk. That is, maybe come back to that when I talk about team structure later on. And we need to have clear signals, clear roles, and my deck matters less than the safe arrival. And with that I mean, because every team, they create their own deck, and they might be good. However, the journey is not good if we follow everyone's different maps. It succeeds when we are working together across the teams without friction. So that is why the safe arrival of all of us is more important than the deck for the respective team. But of course, everything is important. But when it becomes important, then it works when we are working together and taking care of each other, basically. And then I will move over to what I call my elements. And some of you heard me talk before, you heard about this before. It's one of my favorite topics. And the reason is because sometimes it makes it easy to understand where things are going to go. Like, for example, I usually, when I look at Engage, which are communities, and behind Engage, you also have a SharePoint site. So what do you do with that? But basically, this is where you share what I call the gas, the information that should go across the organization. It should be available for everyone. It's fast, it's out there. And could be, building the culture, learning and knowledge sharing across the whole organization. This is where you have your expertise communities. This is where a manager visiting a fish farm, take pictures and share and say we have this project going on and it's super cool. Look what we do. And that means when I'm working somewhere else, I say, oh, we do these kind of things in our organization. I didn't know that. That was super nice. So this means I've become proud of my company. So these are what we call the gas. This is moving fast and all over the sky, basically, like the aurora. And then we have the liquid. This is where the work happens. This is what happens in teams and the SharePoint behind the teams. This is where we collaborate. This is where we have the drafts, the tasks, decisions. This is this is our garage where we work together, basically. And then we have the solids, because people say, oh, we don't need SharePoint. We have Teams, we have Engage, we don't need anything else. Yes, I would rather say you also need the solids. You need some place, a repository where you have your standards, your templates, the guides and the guidelines. This is how we work. And that will be, for example, a SharePoint communication site, which is like a portal of information. And then you have your own stuff, what you have in OneDrive and your private chats, that is drafts, maybe one-on-one talk or ask a colleague when is a coffee break. Then we use private chat in Teams, and you maybe have some a project that you want to start, but you haven't gotten your Teams yet. Then you can work on that in your OneDrive. But as soon as you get the project team, you move it over to the project team, right? So this is kind of quickly summarize the elements, and let's have a look at that on the ship. What does that mean? So, for example, if you look at this big ship I'm driving across the ocean now, the cabin and the ad hoc sharing that I have in OneDrive and the private chat in Teams, that's what happened in my personal space. That's my cabin, sort of. And then we move over to collaboration and team. That's the deck. That is where the sails are getting adjusted. This is where we are washing the deck. We are preparing for whatever comes. And this is where we set sail and do all the work to make sure the ship is sailing, basically. Those on call here who are more well versed in ocean or ship sailing than me, you probably know what happens on the deck. But that's basically what we do in teams. This is where we work together, we share, we collaborate. And this is between a defined group of people that have access to the same content. So if people are there just to have an opinion about what's happening on the deck, send them to the cabin or a different boat because they don't belong on deck, basically. So this is where everyone has a role, everyone should have access to the same content. And then we have the solids, we have the chart, we have the map, we have the cargo, we have content that we are driving from A to B. This is the standards, this is the templates, the guide and the guidelines, and how we do things here. This is what we do in the SharePoint communication, for example, site. And then we have this gas or the wind, maybe even a better word for it. And this is the aurora. I love that idea of the aurora, but the radio, the flag signals that we use for communication, the wide information sharing and expertise and knowledge sharing across the organization. This is where we use the Engage and the SharePoint behind the Engage. Many times I see that people want to hide the SharePoint that is behind Engage. I say use it because SharePoint has different purpose compared to what it is associated with. A SharePoint associated with Teams is for collaboration and work. The SharePoint associated with Engage is for sharing, for example, expertise reports or presentations related to an expertise. Maybe I saw a cool white paper I want to share about a specific topic. I wouldn't find a natural place for that. But of course, if I have an expertise community, I can share that in the expertise community. And I could also share, for example, events and activities that are happening in that expertise community. So that's why it will be a natural place to put. So use that. It is really a good source for knowledge sharing and event sharing in relation to, for example, an expertise community or a location building or whatever it might be that is you would use the Engage for. So all these different elements is the life on board the ship. So I hope this made sense for you. Let's see. And then the 4 main important seamanship rules related to these different elements. The gas, you want to inspire many. Liquid, this is working now. Solid, this must last. And the cabin, not ready yet or just temporarily and just here for this ride, but not the next one, maybe, right? So then I have a cabin where I have my own stuff. So let's have a look at how can we move from all of this theory onto actually moving into a frontier firm, as we talked about earlier today. So what can we do in the first 30 days? Number 1, we need to stabilize the ship. Are we ready? We need to figure out where are we on this different level 1, 2, 3, 4, or 500. Then we have to look at what do we need to stabilize when it comes to readiness. What about rules? Who are the owners? What signals are we supposed to follow? Okay, we can do that in the first 30 days. And then between 31 to 90 days, we need to start training the crew because you don't start on a sailing journey across the world without a trained crew, do you? You have to build some habits. You need to look at scenarios. What do we do if something happens, like A and B and C? We need to create some playbooks. We need to have some champions or steermen, as we say on the boat, to say, okay, this is what we need to do on different scenarios. And then in the 91 to 180 days, we sail repeatable routes. Then we have created these agent workflows. We have set up some OKRs and KPIs we want to follow. Of course, we have taken the baseline in the first 30 days. And now we start measuring what happens, how are things going? And then we have to adjust. And then we have reinforcement back to the ADKAR change management plan again, right? So all in all, I don't know how much I am on time now. So all in all, the level 500 Frontier Firm it is human-led. Basically, short story, long story short, you're in charge. You use AI to help you, right? And then the work is outcome driven, not following hierarchy or whatever we used to do. Now we focus on the outcome and we organize our work around that. We decide on the destination and we move towards that. And also make sure that we have an intentional information flow. We put things in the right place. We put in Teams, we put in Engage, we use the different tools that are there. And if you now want to implement Copilot but haven't yet done proper adoption of Microsoft 365, I will highly recommend that you do those things parallelly, because it's super important. Good adoption of Teams and Microsoft 365 is a prerequisite to succeed with Copilot. And wind inspires, like you do in Engage. Water moves the more work, like you do in the Fluid in Teams. And the cargo protects the truth. This is where you have the standards and the templates in SharePoint. So, yeah, great navigation beats powerful engines. And I wonder if I am on time now, and I just want to show you this beautiful video that the crew at Coco prepared. And remember, the AI is not the destination by itself. AI is the wind that you have in your sails, and use that. And the frontier firms, they succeed because they know where they're going, and they know how their crew works together and what has to stay solid when the weather changes, because storms will come, be sure of that. But if your crew is prepared, they can sail through whatever storms or whatever happens on the high seas, or if you're hijacked by pirates or sirens are trying to lure you out on the wrong part of the ocean. If your boat is steady and you have a clear destination and your crew is prepared, you can get away from that. So yeah, choose the horizon and design the work to get there. All right, so let's see. I think I'm part of them done now. Let's see. Yeah, thanks for attending. So how am I with time? Anyone there to share how am I with time? Let's see. Are we there? Thorsten? Oh, here we go. Yeah, there was a message, but it has been deleted. I don't know what that was, but anyway. So I hope that made sense. If anyone has a question, please feel free to ask a question if you have one. Yeah, any questions there? Please. The PowerPoint, yes, I will do that. I will share it with you. And also I have a matrix of the, because what I showed you in this session was just one characteristic for each of the levels. I have a good old Excel sheet that I will share with you. So please complete that form. I think I had extra, or just write in the message here, and I can share that with you. If I have a OneDrive folder, of course, I will share with you. So, and also the presentation, of course. Yeah. I hope it made sense. It was a lot about oceans, but I found it very interesting about the Frontier Firm. I really recommend you to go and have a look at. I will add the links to Microsoft Frontier Firm articles in the presentation as well, because it is super interesting. Sorry, super interesting how work is evolving and changing. Oh yeah, Q&A, that's where the questions are. Sorry, I was looking at the chat. Here we go. Step-by-step instructions how to move from 100 to 200. Yeah, that's in it to Jessica there. Yes, I have that Excel sheet I can share with you later on. So just give me your name or just send a message here in the chat, or find me on LinkedIn. I'm easy to find. So just let me know and I'll share the link to that OneDrive with you. I can basically, hold on, what am I saying? I can just share it now. Hold on. Goodness me. of course, I can share right away to all of you, so you can go in and have a look. So what I have in that Excel sheet is basically the different levels for the moving from, let's see, hold on, talk and find at the same time. Just didn't work very well. There we go. Oh, it takes time. Oh, it's thinking because I'm on mobile net. Anyway, I'll share it afterwards here with you. And another question, what steps do you need to take to move between the levels? I mean, to move from 300 to 400. Yes. So in many times, because you have, what I've seen a lot is that you have implement Copilot and you run some prompt courses and maybe you do a little bit of adoption of Micro 365 as well. However, what I see is that for companies to move, because for 300 to 400, you want to organize the work. You need to have the governance in place. You have to have an information architecture. How are you, and many times what I say is take a step back and look at how you are adopting Microsoft 365. Because if you are doing a lot of the communication in private chats groups in Teams, if you do a lot of email, it's hard to move from 300 to 400. But if you look at the whole Microsoft 365 structure and you have a good governance there, and you start organizing that to include, for example, how you're going to manage agents, for example, that you have, and also you have a clear strategy. What I sometimes do, when I go to a new customer, before I even meet them, I go to their website and I go and have a look at what are they saying about themselves that they're doing when it comes to digitalization. And I take a print screen of that. Then when I have the first meeting, I say, do you recognize this? And sometimes they don't, because they don't go and look at their own website, do they? So, because whatever you're doing with the technology, you are supporting those visions and values that you're telling the rest of the world that you are doing, right? But here you have Copilot to help you. Of course, ask Copilot first. These are our visions and values. This is where we are today. How can I bridge that gap? So ask Copilot to help you there. But yes, so you can have a look at this, and this is still work in progress as we started with this maturity model. So this is the first session I ever have about it. So it's super interesting to hear if it flies at all. So I really love your feedback as well. So I shared the Excel sheet with you, what is happening in the different steps. So we can have a talk about it and see, does this make sense? Do you agree? And then we can have a look at it together. So that is the community all about, right? To see how this flies. So with that, I think over to the next. Is it past the Thorsten they're starting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks
And then
for the session. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and then we have the next one is Gitta Bleiendal. I love to hear about this one. It's super good. Yeah.
Yes. The session title was so great.
Fantastic. I thought, I want to see that. That is super interesting. So yeah, I hope it made sense that you got to you people who joined this session, that you got some ideas and some new thoughts how to look at this Frontier Firm, and it makes sense to you. And really interested to see what you think along the way. So please feel free to contact me. I'm on LinkedIn, and we run the Norwegian Microsoft 360, or it was used to be Microsoft 365 community. Now it's Microsoft Tech Community. So if anyone wants to talk there, we're welcome. All right. But
thank you so much, Merethe.
take care.
Have a great day, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you for running this awesome. Bye.
Community Conference, where innovation dances, where